What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world of gaming and welcome to a new tutorial video. In this tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to download and install Windows XP on your Windows 10 computer. Now you may be asking yourself, why the hell would I want to do that? Well, have you ever run across the problem that you're trying to start up an old program or an old game and Windows just happily comes and tells you that it can't run the program because it doesn't support it or because it's too old, right? Because generally these errors are made because the program is too old and was built for like Windows 95, 98 or XP, and because of the change and the upgrades to Windows 7 or Windows 10, they simply don't work anymore, right? Now, this is especially a problem for us gamers if you want to play some of those old games like the Humongous Entertainment games or other old games, right? That you just want to replay, but you can't because your computer is technically too powerful to handle it, right? Well, in order to fix that problem, I'm going to tell you how you can install and run Windows XP while still running Windows 10, right? So you don't have to like separate your hard drive into two separate compartments and putting Windows 10 on the one compartment and Windows XP on the other. That's not necessary at all. This method is a much more easier. Okay, so what do we need for this? We need this lovely program here, Oracle VM Virtualbox. This program will allow us to run Windows 10 in a what's called virtual machine. So let's go to step 1, downloading all of the necessary programs. So we're going to the internet, to Google or any other search engine, and we're going to start by typing Oracle Virtualbox. And then we will select the first option here, and you will get to the website of Oracle's VirtualBox, right? And as you can see, there's a big square here saying download VirtualBox 5.0, right? And then you have to check for VirtualBox 5.0.20 for Windows hosts, because of course we're going to do this on Windows, right? Right, and then you just click on this link and it will immediately ask you to save the file, the exe file, to install it. Now, I'm not going to do this because it's already installed, but this is step 1, or this is the first thing you have to install. In case you ever wonder how this program really works, you can have all sorts of documentation on this website, user manual and stuff like that. But for now, let's just go back to Google and let's look up Windows XP ISO file, right? And if you type this into Google, you will click on the first link again, once again, and this will bring you to a website which will allow you to download Windows XP, both the 32-bit version and the 64-bit version, right? So we want to download the 32-bit version. Why is that? Because most games, when they were built for Windows 95, 98 and the early version of XP, they were built for 32-bit programming environments, because that was where technology stood at that time. Downloading Windows XP 64 will not solve your problem because the games you are trying to play aren't made for a 64-bit environment. Therefore, we want the 32-bit ISO download. So we click on download and it will bring the same dialog screen to the internet, and you press save file, of course. Once again, I'm not going to do this because I already have the file. Downloading Windows XP may of course take some time, as it is quite a large file. Well, it's not that large of a file, but it is a large file anyway, because it's like an operating system. You may of course question, is this stuff actually legal? You know, I'm just downloading Windows XP from the internet, while Microsoft like sold it sold so many copies over those years. And well, yeah, technically this could be considered as illegal, but then again, Microsoft has dropped its support for Windows XP a long time ago, right? It's not supporting it anymore. So technically, it doesn't really care, right? Besides, it's Windows XP. We're not even going to use it as our main operating system, so who cares about that sort of stuff, right? Anyway, that is step one, downloading the necessary components, right? So in your downloads folder, you should then find uh, this file over here, the 32-bit file, and of course the .exe program for Oracle Virtualbox. The second step is of course installing Oracle Virtualbox. Now, while you're installing VirtualBox, your computer will ask you if Oracle is allowed to install certain drivers. Oracle will install certain drivers so the virtual machine can access your USB ports and your CD drive, so that if you are inserting a CD in your computer, it can also be read by the virtual machine, or in this case, Windows XP, right? So you just have to click yes a bunch of times when that shows up. You will temporarily lose connection to the internet, right? When you are installing Oracle VirtualBox. Anyway, that's the second step. Over to the third step then, that is of course working with the program itself. So I'm gonna open it now, just a little while. And there we go. As you can see, I have already set up a virtual machine for Windows XP. But I'm now going to show you how to do it. That's step 3, setting up the virtual machine. So this list will be empty, of course, if this is the first time you use the program. So therefore we're going to press on New, right? And now we have to give our operating system a name. Now I'm going to call it Windows XP. And as you can see, as I have typed Windows XP, the virtual machine immediately recognizes this and switches the version to Windows XP 32-bit. So I'm going to call this Windows XP virtual machine number 2, right? Of course, we don't have to change the type, and we also don't have to change the version. As you can see, you are able to choose Windows XP 64-bit, but we will have to use the 32-bit instead, of course. Then we click Next, and what we have to do now is we have to allocate how much RAM this virtual machine is allowed to use, right? Now, as you can see, VirtualBox chooses 192 megabytes as a standard amount of RAM, right? However, if we are playing games, we would of course like to bump this up a little bit just to be safe. So therefore, I'm going to bump it up to 2048 megabytes or 2 gigabytes, right? Just to be sure, right? You don't even need to have this large amount of RAM unless you have like these one of the few games on Windows XP that actually require a large amount of RAM, but that you usually won't come across those. Now, of course, if you are allocating RAM, be aware that you have to take into account the rule about RAM I have also talked about in my how to optimize your performance in Minecraft video. You shouldn't allocate more than half of your RAM, right? So for example, I have 8 gigabytes of RAM on this computer. Therefore, it would be wise not to allocate more than 4 gigabytes of RAM to the virtual machine, right? Because your computer needs some RAM in order to execute very basic tasks, right? But if you allocate too much RAM to a program, this may lead your computer to crash if you run that program together with all sorts of other stuff, right? So if you have, for example, 4 gigabytes of RAM and you will want to allocate 2 gigabytes, that's a bit on like the risk zone. I wouldn't necessarily say it is bad, but maybe you should go for the 1 gigabyte instead. Anyway, we have allocated our RAM. Now we're going to press on next. Next, Oracle Box will make us a new virtual hard drive. This virtual hard drive, right, will be used to save all of your files of the Windows XP in this case. Now, this hard drive is, as it says, it is virtual. Therefore, right, if we are going to allocate some gigabytes for a hard drive, that doesn't mean that these gigabytes will be used immediately, right? So I'll come back to that just in a sec. First off, you want to choose the middle option, right? Make a new virtual hard drive, okay? And then we're going to press on make. Just choose the first one, dynamically allocate it, and now we want to allocate a certain amount of gigabytes to this virtual hard drive. So as you can see, the standard value is 10 gigabytes. I'm going to allocate 15. Again, just to be sure, just to make sure that we are not on the edge, right? Just on the limit of our capacities, right? So like I said, we are now going to allocate 15 gig of our hard drive to the virtual machine. But this doesn't mean that we lose 15 gig of hard drive space immediately. No, the virtual machine will just take up the room it needs. To take up, right? It won't take up these whole 15 gigabytes unless, of course, you put all sorts of files in that virtual machine which do take up 15 gigabytes in total, right? So that's how that works. All right then, let's go over to the next step. So we press again make, and that is it, right? Our virtual machine has now been set up, right? And as you can see, you can check all the settings right here, and this is done. Okay, now we're going to start this virtual machine. You can do that by clicking the start button here or just double clicking here. Now, if the virtual machine is being started up for the first time, right, Oracle will ask you to select a boot drive, right? So I've actually forgotten to tell you this in the beginning of the video, but you don't need to download Windows XP when you actually have an installation disk, right? If you still have a disk with Windows XP on it, you can use that instead of downloading it from the internet, right? Be aware though that if you're using your CD, you will be needing your activation key as well, right? So make sure you have those too. But we have of course downloaded Windows XP from the internet. Therefore, we're gonna have to select a different type of boot file. So you want to press this icon here, right? And then you can search your computer for the boot drive itself. So it already chose the correct map. So we are in downloads, Windows XP in my case, and we're going to select, of course, our 32-bit ISO file, right? Like I said, an ISO file is a file that makes your computer think you have put a CD into it, right? It's a virtual CD, if you will. So we're going to select this file as our boot drive, and we're going to press start. Okay, so now VirtualBox has started, and Windows setup should be running right now if you have followed all the steps correctly. So, right, here we are. Right now, we are going to have to show us where we're going to install Windows XP, somewhere on our virtual 15 gigabyte drive, right? So you just have to press enter here, press enter again on the format the partition using the NTFS file system, press enter again, and now Windows will format some stuff and just do its thing. So this is, as you can see, the environment of Oracle VirtualBox, right? Now this screen will not stay as tiny as this, but it won't get much bigger than that, if I have to be 100% honest with you. So you can do a whole bunch of stuff here in these options. They are of course in Dutch in my case, but you have to check these out for yourself. It's not really that difficult. Okay, so Windows is happily continuing its installation of the operating system. So Oracle, if you activate a virtual machine, your keyboard is being used for the virtual machine. So you can't technically use it in any other application at the moment, right? So if I would activate the internet, for example, I'm not sure if I can type. Can I? Oh, yes, I can. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, you still can use your keyboard, apparently. And you can, as you can see, you can also use your mouse freely in Windows 10. And if you would move it inside this little box here of Windows XP, you could use it as well. So now Windows is going to boot from the CD. As you can see, there we go. Windows XP, everyone. Ah, the memories. So as you can see, if I move my mouse inside this little window, you can see that I now have my mouse inside Windows XP, and now it's outside. Inside, outside, inside. You get the idea. Right, and now it is installing Windows on the virtual machine, right? This will of course take some time, a little bit of time as well. It's Windows, right? So it says here 37 minutes, but it won't take 37 minutes at all. It will go through it pretty fast. I would say it takes about a minute or three. I'm not really sure. About a minute or three. So I'll be back when the Windows has finished uh, installing, and we will have to go through the different options. Alright, apparently you couldn't see my mouse in the other parts of the video, so I have activated that option again, so I hope you will be able to see it now. But just to demonstrate again, so my mouse is now outside of Windows XP. I can fiddle around with Windows 10, and now it is inside. I can move these windows and press these buttons, right? So the first thing you want to do is set up your region. So Windows is busy installing, and you will get this pop-up window which will ask you to set up your language and stuff. So we're going to press on the first customize button, and we can choose for this option to be, for example, Dutch Belgium. However, right, I can also change my location, for example, to Belgium. There. Not that that is going to make any difference. Now, however, even though we can set this to Dutch Belgium, it won't actually change the language, because this file you have downloaded from the internet from Windows XP doesn't contain the different language files from Windows, right? So it is actually only available in English, which is not really a real problem for you guys if you speak English, but for other people who don't really understand English all that much, this can be an issue, right? But it actually shouldn't really be one. Now, even though we can't really change the language, what is important though is that we go to details here, because this will change our keyboard input, right? Right now it is set on English United States, which means that we are now actually using a QWERTY keyboard, right? Now in Belgium we use an AZERTY keyboard, so we will have to change this to Dutch Belgian, right? So that we are using a AZERTY keyboard. This is really important, this option right here. It is important to change this, otherwise for us AZERTY users, may getting used we will have to get used to WASD standing in the wrong order, you know, and it won't be fun at all to play games that way. So it is really important to set your correct input language, right? So we press apply and OK, and then we click next. Then you have to type in your name, and organization is optional. We don't care. The computer name, I just erase that shit. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna call it virtual machine, and an password. For an administrator password, you're gonna have to remember this password quite well, because it is necessary. Well, sometimes it may be necessary to give this password if you have to run a certain program as an administrator, right? So you need to remind that password. It has not been properly formatted. It probably isn't allowed to have spaces, so let's use an underscore then. Next. Okay, so now you can set the time and date. I'm not really going to bother right now since I'm not really going to use this virtual machine, and so it will continue installing Windows. Now, Windows XP will now ask you to make this computer a member of a certain domain. That is, if you are, for example, using this computer for work, and you can connect it to a certain domain, right? But we're just going to use it at home. So we want to select this option of no, this computer is not on a network or is on a network without a domain, right? And then we can give it a name like, I don't know, games, right? I press next, and then Windows XP is going to continue once again, happily steadying on with its installation. Okay, so Windows XP has just rebooted and is now booting back up, as you can see. And I believe display settings, Windows automatically, yeah, whatever, okay. It automatically adjusts your screen resolution. As you can see, the square became a little bit bigger. And we are now going through the last steps. Soon we will be seeing the classic desktop from Windows XP. Oh, well, would you look at that. Right, I forgot about this. So, there are still some minor things we have to do setting up the computer. So, for the automatic updates, we don't really have to turn this on since, well, there won't be any automatic updates anymore since Microsoft's dropped the support for Windows XP, right? So, let's go. Checking internet connectivity. Okay, so you can let Windows XP connect to the internet if you want. It's not necessary. It certainly isn't necessary for certain games, and I don't know if it will be necessary for you. So if you want to connect this virtual machine to the internet or not is entirely up to you. For now, I'm going to skip this. And you don't want to register at Microsoft, of course. That's not necessary at all. Who will use these computers? Again, fill in your name and finish the setup. And here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Windows XP. You probably haven't seen this for a long time. But well, here we are, fully functional Windows XP with only the recycle bin here. Right. Okay, so of course, each time you will start up Windows, it will complain that your computer is at risk because there is no antivirus software installed, and it will ask you to keep your computer up to date, to activate Windows automatic updates, blah blah blah. But that is not necessary. At least the Windows update settings, right, are not necessary to activate because, as I said, there are no automatic updates anymore since Microsoft dropped the support for Windows XP. About that antivirus though, If you connect this virtual machine to the internet, it may, I'm not actually 100% sure, but um, it may be so that hackers are able to access the virtual machine. Of course, they access the virtual machine, which has no files whatsoever. If I go to my computer and I go to the local disk, and then of course it will say these files are hidden because you may do something stupid. But we're going to show the contents anyway, so as you can see, it only features the Windows installation files and documents and settings. Well, it just has the desktop start menu and my documents. My documents is just empty. For really? Beethoven Symphony number 9. Anyway, so there's not really much that they're going to find. But of course, with hackers, you never know, and then maybe they find a way through your computer, your actual computer. Of course, I'm not sure about all of this, right? I have personally no idea myself how that works. Um, but anyway, we have Windows XP, gentlemen and ladies. So this is going to be absolutely brilliant. We can play our old games now in Windows XP. So you will be able to play old games and old programs without any problem whatsoever, right? Of course, keep in mind that if your computer isn't all that powerful, he may get a little bit hot when running a game inside this Windows XP virtual machine, because it of course will take a little bit more effort from your computer in order to keep this virtual machine with Windows XP running, right? So if you run a game in Windows XP, you basically let your computer run and the virtual machine and that game. So if your computer is really not all that powerful, it may have a little bit of trouble. It may get a bit warm and stuff. My computer gets warm when doing this, but yeah, my computer isn't all that powerful. So it gets a little bit hot. It has that possibility. Okay. Now, there is one more important thing that we have to do though, and that is in here, devices. So this is in English, this will say devices, and you want to go to optical or optic stations. I don't know how they're called. I think it's optical anyway, and you will see that this setting has been checked, because this is of course our Windows XP boot file. We downloaded from the internet, right? But of course this means that if we go to my computer, right, we have this boot file as our device with removable storage, right? So if we put in a CD, uh, Windows XP won't recognize this. In order to fix it, you have to change devices. You have to change this optical station to host station D, right? And now if we go to computer, you can see that Windows XP can access the CD drive, right? And it will ask me to put a disk into the drive, okay? So this is one last option, devices, optical station, this checking is one of the last options you have to do in order to get going. All right, so uh, that's basically it. Now, about the screen resolution. So the screen resolution of the desktop will mostly stay this way. You can, of course, change this here in this third tab. I don't know how window, I think it's called, is it window? I don't know. Anyway, you can choose to make it fill your screen like this, for example, and then we can close it again. Or you can scale it to a window, right? And then it becomes this scaled version of Windows XP. But this is kind of ugly since everything is like stretched and stuff. So we don't really want this. And now I've forgotten how to how to get out of here again. Damn it. Crap. I forgot. I think it is there we go. So Oracle Box uses a host key. And this host key is like a central key that gives you a wider range of options if you use it in combination with another key. My host key is the right control button on my keyboard, right? And if I press this and I press enter, yeah, it will bring up this little menu, which allows me to choose between the different options I also had above the screen. So if I go back to a window and I go back to this option, I can disable it, right? Okay, so you can change the size of the screen in Windows XP, right? By uh, of course, going to the control panel as well, for example. So you can change the screen resolution to something higher, right? Apply, and then it will change, of course. But the problem is that my laptop, right, um, isn't like high enough, right? So the 76086 is actually already outside of my bounds. So I actually can't. So if I use this screen resolution, I get these bars, which I have to move the screen all the time. And that's not what I want, of course. So I myself have to choose the lowest resolution. Now that is on a 15-inch screen. If you are, of course, using a 17-inch screen, you will probably be able to make this resolution bigger. And well, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We have our virtual machine, we have Windows XP, we can start playing some old games now. Now then, how do we shut this thing down is the last thing. Well, we just shut it down like we would do with a normal computer. So we go to Start, Turn off Computer, and turn it off, right? As you can see, it's not able to go in standby, of course, but we turn it off. There we go, Windows is shutting down, and we will soon get back to our menu. There we go. Alright, that's basically everything you need. You now have Windows XP on your computer and you can start playing your old favorite games again. That's it for this tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned much with this tutorial, and I hope that your problem has been solved. Right? I thank you all for watching. A like is always appreciated. Subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.